right, welcome back to Top 5 Vinyl, where we show love to vinyl owners. Today I'm here with Kaneja. How's it going, sir?
I'm good, my man. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Before we get started, I want everybody to like the channel, subscribe, all that fun stuff you guys gotta do in YouTube land out there. So yeah, I met you on a Facebook group and I saw
Yes.
some vinyl records that you had posted, and I believe one of them was of the legendary Ice-T. Can you talk about that for a second and the website that you got going on?
Yeah, actually, it was the 420 weekend, which the funny thing is that which for years has always been Easter. And
Mm,
for some reason, if you notice, that weekend has been kind of co-opted into 420. Like you hear more about 420 than you hear about Easter. But anyway, he partnered up with a dispensary. So he's a co-owner of a dispensary called the Medicine Woman, and him and Coco were there, and they were doing and signing autographs and everything. This is actually a signed promo flyer that they had that they signed for me.
mm,
And so what I did was I brought a bunch of albums, but I also wanted to bring an old picture that I have that I took of him from what's the date? From September of 2004, Club Deep in New York City.
mm,
And basically, at the time, I was running my website called chateauindigo.com, which I basically ran throughout the 2000s, where we would go out to parties in New York City, take pictures, post them online, and it was really successful. And so, as of late, within the last couple of years, I'll go to artist shows, events, and bring old albums to get them signed. Obviously, I got a bunch
mm.
back here, and I got another wall, another section there. I got a whole bunch that are not even out that are signed. And so what I'm doing now is because I'm reloading my photo archive to my site just has a splash page now, but I'm reloading all of the content, is I'm pulling up the old photos.
Mm,
So here is a photo I took of Ice and Coco in September of '04, and
mm,
so I brought it there and they signed it. But what I also did is I put this photo inside of a book that I gave to Coco with a bunch of other photos that I took of them at Club Cheetah 2 years before this, which Club Cheetah was on 21st Street, Deep was on 22nd Street, for the New York heads that uh, were into clubs at that time. And uh, she loved it, they loved it. And so I also took the opportunity to bring a bunch of joints. So I got Ice to sign, of course, the
mm,
Rolling Stones cover, and I got him to sign, this joint right here,
mm,
which is, I mean, his covers, his first couple albums, were always just actually all of his albums, the covers are just really legendary. I had to get power signed,
mhm,
you
mhm,
know. And of course, I brought this one. This is actually one of the first few West Coast records I ever bought. It's a compilation that he did where he went out, he got a budget, and he went and he paid a bunch of the artists on here to go out, record the songs, and bring it back to him. And if you, I think Combat Jack, if you listen to Ice-T being interviewed by Combat Jack, rest in peace, and some other people, he talks about the story about getting the budget and interviewing and going and getting these dudes to record. My favorite track was by Everlast on here,
mm,
and it's a dope young picture of a young Everlast.
mm,
That's
mm.
that's right there. He just looks like a real young dude.
Right.
But I saw that video on Video Music Box, here in New York, Ralph McDaniels, and that's still one of my favorite records from that time. And I was like, yeah, I need to get that album.
Mm,
But yeah, so that's a story on why I basically I went to the dispensary, of course, to get pictures, I get albums signed, but why I brought a picture of him and gave them a book is because I have an archive of photos of celebrities, artists from like 99, 2000, all the way up to 2010 in the New York City area,
mm,
in the parties, in the clubs. And so that's just now a part of it that I'm doing. And for example, I'm going through Ghostface. I think Ghostface, I got signed over there, Supreme Clientele. He just
mm,
did a show at the Apollo this past Saturday, and it's like a 30th anniversary of the release of that album. He had Inspector Deck with him, he had Capadonna with him. But across the street before the show, he did an in-store at Gotham Buds. And
mm.
so I brought that joint there, but inside of it, which was dope. I mean, real quick. I like this. The dope thing, if you're gonna get albums, you wanna sometimes they'll do reissues and they're not gonna give you the artwork that actually came with it. Sometimes if you're lucky, the original stuff is there. And one of my five is an example of that. So
Mm,
so you have this one,
mm,
which he signed, but then inside it's a double album. There was this picture
mm,
that he signed,
mm,
and then he also signed this one here.
mm,
And
mm,
so these three getting signed are a result of me seeing Ghostface two different times. So I got the white one signed first at one other time, and then he signed the black one in the cover Saturday,
mm.
because he'll only sign maybe one or two joints. And then what I'm also doing is I'm trying to eventually I'm gonna get all of Wu that were
Mm,
not all of them, but the ones that were on his record,
mm,
to sign this. So I got Spectre Deck, and then Jizza I got here, and I got Jizza to sign his first album, not the Liquid Swords, the one before that. I think it was on Coachella, and I got him to sign that one. And then of course this is Ghostface who signed that right there. So this
mm,
is gonna take a while,
mm,
but
mm,
that's fine. I'm gonna get ODB's son to kind of do a RIP Ghostface
mm.
ODB on there too. So it's it's a cool I guess hobby to make it more fun going to shows and seeing artists.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, okay. Well, let's focus on you real quick.
Yes.
Did you grow up with a record player in the house?
Yes, yes. My parents are from Kenya and Tanzania, so
Mm,
music. I'm first generation American. Music was all over the house. My dad's family, every weekend, it was like, he was kind of like the patriarch of the family. So every weekend, his younger brothers and sisters would come over, and it was just always a party. But I wasn't paying attention to the records. I always heard the music.
mm.
I was, a kid. I was just into the sports. I would just see them partying and dancing and stuff like that. They'd make me dance and all that. But yes, music was there, the records were there, but I was not the one where, oh, I have a favorite record. What's that record? I want that. I was not into wanting to own a record until the first one that I wanted to buy was UTFO Roxanne Roxanne.
Mm, mm.
That's the oldest record that I have that I wanted to buy with my own money.
Do you
And you
still
can
actually
tell
have
if
that
you
original that copy now? Do you still have
still
it?
do. Yeah, and if you
Oh,
looked at the cover, you could tell it's been worn through.
huh.
Yeah, yeah,
Been
yeah,
through it.
absolutely. That
Yeah.
was the first one. That was the
Okay.
first one. Yes,
That's
yes.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a favorite record store at like your record buying heyday?
Um, Not really. It just depended on what I needed because especially into the 80s and then into the 90s. Well, I will say this. My favorite record spot was, and it's actually been featured in the Wax Poetic magazine during
Mm,
their heyday, and I guess maybe the 2000s, and
mm,
also in there was a hip hop evolution or hip hop documentary series that was on Netflix that was
mm,
maybe 5 or 8 episodes long, and it was hosted by a Canadian MC. I can't remember his name,
mm,
but there's a section in there where they talk about the Roosevelt Record Convention.
mm,
And, when I started to get into, learning about samples and buying beats, I go to record stores and then I saw a flyer for what's the Roosevelt Record Convention. I went there, and then it's the Roosevelt Hotel in Manhattan,
mm,
Midtown. And you go in there and it's just one big ballroom. And it was the epitome of what everything to hip hop to me was for me
mm, mm,
because I wasn't really into the dancing, into the graffiti. I wasn't an MC or anything like that, but I love the music. I didn't necessarily want to be a DJ, but you go in there and you just see all these record
mm.
vendors
Right.
all over the place, and you walk in, and then and they all have their tables and they all have their turntables and they're playing stuff. And then what made it so dope was that I'm seeing for the first time in action.
Mm,
I'm seeing Juju of the Beatnuts. I'm seeing Large
mm,
Professor. I'm seeing
mm,
Pete Rock. I'm seeing Prince B from PM Dawn
mm,
before he passed. I'm seeing, I'm at a table and I'm right next to Pharoah Monch.
mm,
And I'll never forget we're at a table and there's this guy, white dude, John, who was way in the corner, and his assistant was 88 Keys. And
Mm.
I'll never and this and 88 Keys had these polo goggles on, and he's playing these records, and they got the records up on the wall, and he played this one record, this Billy Butler record that he had that he wanted 200 for,
Mm.
but it was so funky. And I just never forget me and Farrell looking at it like, yo, you got it? I was like, nah, I ain't got, 'cause I'd spent
Sure.
all my money on other stuff.
Right.
But
Right.
it was the most, I would see Breakbeat Lenny and his partner, or his partner, in the back, because this guy had a store who had all the breakbeat records that I eventually went to. But and then these white boys in the middle, and they had this Bose speaker, and they would be playing the Galt McDermott joints and these reissues, and I learned a lot. And
Mm.
actually, Q-Tip, I'd see Q-Tip, Alchemist, Showbiz, Diamond D. Um, I went to I would ask them because there's no internet. There's no whosampled.com. Don't
Mm.
and
Mm.
I'm not in the circle. I'm just a young dude, early 90s. So I would say,
Mm.
yo, what's this sample?
Right.
Um, and I think it was Alchemist who told me, or maybe not Alchemist, this other white cat, because I think this is before, I think this may have been before Alchemist came to New York, but this other white cat told me a sample, a Pete Rock interlude was Ohio Players. And I know
Mm.
Showbiz told me another Pete Rock interlude was an Eddie Harris record, you know? And then I'm flipping next to Kid Capri. And then I'm flipping and I pass by um uh, I think it's Holy David Axelrod. I think it's
Mm.
the Holy Are You album. It's one of those two. And he was like, "Hold up, you don't know about that?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Nah." He was like, "Yo, you need that." And it was only like $12 or whatever.
Mm.
David Axelrod and that whole prog rock thing is just opened me up to a whole other world of what samples were, instead of me going in there like, yo, gotta be James Brown beats
Mm.
and
Right.
breaks
Right. Right.
and Ohio player bass lines, and that opened up, and that's where, and this is the 90s. And so
Mm.
this is the peak of that sampling era. So there was never a store,
Mm.
but that was the one place, and they would do this convention like every 2, 3 months
Mm.
in the
Mm.
Roosevelt.
Okay.
And that
Okay.
was when that was the peak, absolute peak for me. And it got to the point where, and I've heard Evil D or different people tell stories where it's a hotel. And so
Mm.
they would get rooms in the hotel. And then
Nice.
it would open up at 9 o'clock. Early admission would be 8 o'clock. You pay, regular admission is $5. You pay 20 at 8 to get early admission. So now
Mm.
you're in
Mm.
there early, whatever, before everybody else. Now I'll never forget, I'm doing early admission, and I see a $20 bill
Mm.
being stuck out behind me, and it's Pete Rock.
Mm.
And,
Mm.
and he had like a big dude with him.
Mm.
Um, and one more thing about the Roosevelt Convention is that I'll never forget. I saw Prince B from PM Dawn after he
Mm.
had the incident with KRS-One,
Mm.
and KRS-One threw him off the stage.
Mm. Mm.
Prince B was a big dude, like 6'2", 6'3", easily 300 pounds.
Mm.
He had two bigger dudes with him, like 6'5", 6'6". And I'll never forget. And he's just going to table. And then maybe an hour, 2 hours later, he's buying everything.
Mm.
Each dude is holding his records. And so these big dudes have stacked records under their arms, each of them, two dudes, and they're bigger than him. And it was just amazing to witness and see and feel the culture. And
Okay. Okay.
speaking of that, so this old relic, you could
Mm.
tell it's
Mm.
old, but the old ass stickers
Mm-hmm.
on
Mm-hmm.
it. And oh wow, Prince Marky D, Crunch
Mm.
Time.
Wow.
And the batteries on here,
So. Mm-hmm.
you know. So
Wow.
so it's
Wow.
portable. So I bought this not at the Roosevelt. A dude was selling it for $20.
Mm.
I'll never forget. I was like, do I need a portable? And another dude, I didn't even know him. He was like, yo, get that. Trust me. He just like, yo, nah, you could 20, nah, get it. And I'm
Mm.
glad I did. And so actually, um, And it's funny because I brought it home and I went to a local electrical store, and the guy basically installed a headphone jack, and because it's mono, he basically made these headphones mono,
Mm,
wired them to be mono
mm.
so that I could hear
Right,
out of
right,
each
right.
one. And for years, this has been my assistant, where
Hmm.
I'd be digging in somebody's basement,
Hmm.
attic, sometimes record stores, or spots, libraries. A lot of libraries had records, or whatever, or spots they're getting ready to throw records away. And I would just bring this to me on some digging, on some real 90s digging missions for
Hmm.
years and years and years.
That's
Uh,
nice. So let me ask you this question.
yes,
Have you ever bought the same vinyl record twice?
yes,
How
yeah,
many would you
actually.
imagine that you've had to buy twice? More than
Um,
10? More than 20?
okay, okay, well, here's a sad story. I've bought records, duplicates that I didn't realize or I forgot I had the original.
Okay.
Here's a story where I had to buy them again. When I first started buying, and I remember specifically, it was Big Daddy Kane's Get Into It 12-inch. It was Bismarcky, Nobody Beats the Biz, and it was also Criminal Minded, BDP.
Mm, mm,
And I had them and maybe a couple others, but those three were my favorites. And I'll never forget, I had them stacked on in the den in the house, which was on the heater.
mm.
Okay.
I see
Now,
where this is going.
s- spring,
Yeah.
summer, whatever, had them there. I just moved them there for a particular time period prior to winter.
Mm,
And then winter comes, now the heat comes up. And then during winter, I go to play them and they're all warped. And these were originals.
mm, mm.
And that was like the hardest lesson to
Yeah.
learn,
Yeah.
but it was a lesson I had to learn. So eventually, that was even before I knew about secondhand stores.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
didn't know. I thought they were gone forever because
Mm,
until I found out about secondhand stores and used stores and how people had them, and so I bought them since.
mm,
Um, so now here's what's interesting about my BDP album that I bought again right after that. I bought a copy of the vinyl where the label on the side A label is the same on both sides.
mm,
So
mm.
they must have been a print or
Right.
a pressing
Hmm.
were a bunch. And I actually just recently looked at it. I actually scratched out the names of the songs on side B and I wrote a big B. I wish I didn't do that. I wish I
Mm,
just would have just wrote a B just to know. But the label, it's side A, side A. And
mm,
so for
mm,
anybody who has Criminal Minded, original, or you're digging, you come across Criminal Minded, pull out, look at the vinyl, and see if you have the run that has the double label,
mm.
the side A on both
Right.
sides.
Right.
I
Right.
got it, and I'm sure there are a bunch out there that got it. But yeah,
Hmm.
to answer your question, that was the first time I had to go out and look for duplicates
Okay.
or buy records again.
And this is the final question before we get
Yes.
into it. How hard was it for you to narrow down five?
Oh, hard. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, I just had to. When I got to five, I just had to stop. Just had to shut it down because I kept. You can't,
Yeah, yeah.
because like we said this in the before we started recording.
Hmm.
I don't really. I use streaming. Like I use Tidal
Hmm.
to go and preview albums that I don't have.
Right.
If I like it, I'm buying it on iTunes, or I'm
Hmm.
buying it, or I'm buying the CD, like new stuff.
Hmm.
Or
Hmm.
if it's old hip hop, I go to iTunes because I don't have time to MP3 stuff. I'm going to buy the joint so I can put it onto my phone and I own it. So no internet, no internet, whatever. As long as I got juice in my phone, I have my music.
Hmm.
Because,
Hmm.
back in days you listen to a mix show, you
Hmm.
got to record. You like a song. And
Hmm.
then you really like a song, the you don't have the full joint, so you want to. For me, I need to buy the record and then record it to a tape, and now I gotta have it how I want to have it. So so that's why for me, it's always been about, I like something, I'm going to buy it so I can have it.
Right.
And so the good thing about iTunes is with every device, it doesn't matter. It's on my account and it'll download to, whatever device. But everything I like, I gotta buy it. I'm not relying on streaming platforms and they go down. No, 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 no. I'm
Hmm.
buying it and
Hmm.
downloading it. Yeah.
All right, cool, cool. All right. This is
Yes,
top five vinyl. Let's get into it,
yes,
sir. What
yes.
is the number five album that you have in front of you right now?
Let's start with this. KPM.
Mm, mm,
It's a KPM is a company that is a company known for their it's a known as a sound library company. In the 50s all the way through up until really today, I didn't know this, but sound library companies like these were basically employed full-time orchestras.
mm,
There's a guy named Sam Spence, and he basically did a lot of orchestrations and music for NFL films, which
mm,
I fell in love with. I didn't realize it was sound library music. And he basically talked about him. He was a conductor. He moved to Germany because Germany was the few places that had year-round orchestras, just working year-round.
mm,
And so um, you have companies like this that were making music specifically for production.
mm,
They were never commercially released. So companies like KPM, DeWolf, Brutone, there's so many that are out there. I refer to sound library music as like a treasure trove of music that has never been discovered because it was never commercially available.
mm,
Now,
mm,
if you watch um, NFL film. I grew up on NFL films, Saturdays where they'll run the highlights of this week in football, but then they'll also play old films, the best ever running backs, the best ever quarterbacks, whatever the case is. But I got hooked because what they would do is the guys at NFL Films, the Sable family, they loved film. And so they basically said, we don't just want to do old sports films, were newsreels. If you watch them old, you'll hear a guy talking like he's on the radio, and you'll hear the crowd, and music will be corny. It'll be some polka music or some band music. You know, what the Sables did because they loved film is they actually incorporated orchestrated classical music, and they combined the music with something that they were the first to do. They were 40 years ahead of their time. They shot in slow motion
mm,
because they loved film.
mm,
And so those old films, and there's a whole generation of us. Anybody who knows NFL films, who grew up on it, who loves it, they're known for their slow motion. So anytime you see a commercial, you see a highlight, a promo of a basketball film or a basketball clip of somebody slow motion, hockey, baseball. NFL Films was doing that in the 60s.
mm,
And they made their films with that, and they combined that with the music, and then with also a guy named John Facenda, who they called the voice of God, who would narrate it. And combining all that, it basically, I say this, it made nonfiction, they took nonfiction and made it fiction.
mm,
Because
mm,
you could watch a game and then look at the highlight reel. You could watch the Super Bowl and then look at the highlight of the Super Bowl and wonder if you were watching the same thing
mm,
because
mm,
the Super Bowl, I think which one was it, 21, that the Giants won. They beat Denver Broncos. Lawrence Taylor's in there against Elway. I watched that game, and then I watch NFL films, and I know it's slow motion of Lawrence Taylor running chasing Elway, and it's the music and it's the orchestration they created. um they took nonfiction and made it fiction into the experience. So anyway, this particular one, the reason why I pulled it is because there's a song on here. I think it's the number two one on there, but it's a song, Heavy Action. And so to kind of speak to what I'm talking about for football, so when ABC was getting ready to um, do Monday Night Football, they were like, okay, we need a theme song. What are we going to do? And
mm,
what they did is they did what NFL Films had been doing. They dug in the crate, which they had all of the library joints, and they picked Heavy Action. Heavy Action is the famous dun 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 dun.
mm, mm,
That's this.
mm, mm,
So the original Monday Night Football theme comes from this album,
mm,
Industrial Panorama, KPM, and it's all over YouTube, whatever the case is. These other songs here have also been used in a lot of NFL films. Like when I listen to library music, I know what films because I'm just an NFL films head. So I just know which highlights and which films, and sometimes I know the films better than I know where the albums came from. But I knew the songs from the film. So this is number five. But yeah, KPM music. If you search NFL films or Monday Night Football theme, it, it comes from Industrial Panorama. So this is, I
Mm,
guess, number five.
nice. Okay. All right, cool. So that was your number five. Let's go ahead and take a look at your number four.
Sport. This was done by his
Mm,
character was called Sport,
mm,
but he's actually one of the original members of the Last Poets,
mm, mm,
and actually couldn't remember to get his full official name on here. But and so basically, Sport is a story where he's talking about himself, and basically it's leading up to a big and the album is called Hustlers Convention. And so it's him and his homeboy who comes home from jail or whatever, and they find out about this big hustlers convention. It's the 70s, and it's like, yo, we got to go there because we got to win this money and the girls and this and that and whatever the case is. Kool and the Gang did the music.
mm,
So it's all Kool and the Gang music in the
mm,
back here. And there's a song, the song, the intro song, Sport, is you play sport and you will immediately know the breakbeat. You've heard the drums, and then the music is actually sampled a lot of people, but I think it was the Dismasters, and they made a song called Small Time Hustler. And they literally took the whole song, and you'll know it, but the drums have been used a million times. The drums are on Smith and Wesson's album.
mm,
They slowed it down a lot of. So this is a dope album because they talk about getting fresh, going to the Hustlers convention, and then getting into a card game. And one of the guys was cheating. They made all this money, and then they escape, and then the cops busted, and then they run out, and the cops are chasing them, whatever the case is, and then he gets locked up. And then
mm,
he realized when he gets out of jail or when he gets older, like, yeah, it's played, doing the street shit is bullshit.
mm,
But the reason why I pulled this is because it leads to another reason. I think I had mentioned it about the Ghostface thing,
mm,
where you really, if you're buying records online, like Discogs or whatever, you want to look and see if it's the original packaging, the original sleeves, because you'll never know what's inside now. I had this record for maybe 10 years, okay? Until I pulled it out to play it and I find this. This is a documented, like I'm just moving it up so you can look at the
mm,
pictures,
mm,
which is crazy. Was done in 19, I think maybe 1972. I mean, you look at the artwork
mm, mm,
on this, and it's just classic 70s artwork where it is word for word his all of his rhymes.
mm, mm,
And so this I had no idea, and it's in mint shape. This thing sat in the record for
mm.
years and years. For years, I had no idea that this joint was in there. So again,
Wow.
anybody who owns like that picture is crazy.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
You know, anybody who owns this record, or if you find it, and you wanna buy it, you wanna find out if the insert is in the record
Mm,
because, and if it is, you could probably tell in the price if it's an original because they'll say, "Yo, the insert's in here," and so so this is my number four because it just it's an example of making sure you take everything out of the record because you never know what's inside. Or sometimes you don't know that or what they originally put
mm.
with the albums.
Right, right. All right, cool. So that was your number four.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and take a look at your number three.
Number three is Big Daddy Kane.
Mm,
Something funky, just rhyming with biz. And then on the flip side is Get Into It.
mm, mm,
This was we talked, offline UTFO Roxanne was the first record that I had to buy, that I wanted to buy. This is the first record, almost the first movement that I had to be a part of. Like I had to have this because this was Marley Marl and his production at its peak. Biz and him rhyming that something, just rhyming with Biz, crazy. And then get into it, the vocal and the instrumental. I used to just put it on and just vocal and then the instrumental, you know, it's just perfect. It was just that time and Marley's production and the samples he used. It was the record, and this is definitely a record that I'm gonna want Kane to sign whenever I can catch him and sign it, because this was the most important record for me, where I was like, I gotta have this because this was like, okay, I'm a huge fan of this guy. And the funny thing is, I back during college radio days, I heard an interview. I'm just, you had to turn the dial all the way down to the left, every night, because you never knew what colleges would be doing interviews. And I heard Kane, and I didn't know who he was, and they were playing something funky. I was like, what's this? And then he was like, yeah, I just remember him saying, yeah, I'm not really too proud of that, whatever the case is. And then they played Just Rhyming with Biz and then Get Into It. I was like, wow. And then soon after that, it blew up and Juice Crew and Marley was playing it. And I was like, this was something that I had to have. So this is my number three. This is my number
Mhm.
three joint.
Nice, nice. Okay. That's your number three. Let's go ahead and take a look at your number two. Oh, I know that album cover. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And this I bring it up because I went to a Rakim show at
Mhm.
SOB's and I had my GoPro and I'm right by the stage and he starts to perform Paid in Full and I
Mhm.
hold it up and he takes it. I hold it up and he takes it out of my hand and I had Sharpie. I gave it to him and then I had my GoPro, turned my GoPro on and I have a video of him signing it on stage while
Mhm.
Paid in Full is playing
Mhm.
before he even started to do it. So this whole thing this is all Rakim. And
Wow.
then before he even gets into it, performing it, Busta Rhymes is there. And
Huh.
Busta Rhymes now gets on, and Busta Rhymes starts doing the Paid in Full verse with him.
Mhm.
And I'm still recording, I have it all. And then they stop it, and Busta Rhymes is telling stories about going to see Big Daddy Kane. No, Big Daddy Kane pulling up to his high school in Long Island, and he was pulling, no, not Big Daddy Kane, Rakim, pulling up to his high school in Long Island, and Rakim had like a baby blue bends and like he described the color and the rims, whatever the case, and just seeing him at that particular time. And so that was that moment of getting it signed at a show, live in the middle of the show, and then capturing it was just perfect.
That's
Just
so cool.
perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
For the grand finale,
yes.
what do we have for number one?
So now this is interesting. This is actually a old school relic that I am happy to come across. So digging, I came across some DJ's collection, and I pull the records out, and I see these two records that have 45s glued to them.
Hmm.
So on the back of this one is the Andrea True Creation, and I have this one, and this one is Lalo Schifrin Black Widow, which is dope also. These 45s, the same 45s, it's the and it's everything about this is just so old school. It's like a hieroglyphic almost, like an
Hmm.
old school relic. The record is Catch a Groove, and it's a popular break. These 45, so it's two 45s glued to vinyl. They blacked out, they blacked out the name of the song, and even the name of the song, and I think the name of the artist, or I forget what it is. And they also, you can see they put marks like their start marks on here, the DJs do.
Mhm.
This is, and then I come to find later that the old school DJs, a lot of them, this was how they would DJ 45s.
Hmm.
So they just would glue them to a 33, and that way they could still do the same thing, but still have it on the 45 speed to make it easier to handle. And so
Wow.
for me to have two of these, this is just literally like a relic
Yeah.
from the past. And I don't remember if the name of the DJ was on was maybe on a piece of paper because this came from somebody's collection.
Mm, mm,
And I just wish, yeah, it's not anywhere in here. I just wish that I had the name of the DJ to give him props and maybe to see if he's still around. But this is I guess the proudest thing that I've found because it's a direct link to the origins of hip hop, or at least in the maybe first, second wave, where it was really, really getting busy in the parks, and dudes were really about like to the point where it was getting serious, where they were blacking out the names.
yeah, yeah.
In the beginning, there always have been jams, but when they got to the point where they're playing breaks and they don't want the other people or even people around them to know, and they're
Mm,
blacking it out and
mm,
they're gluing the joint,
mm,
this is that period. This is mid to late 70s. I'll probably say late 70s.
mm. Now, how did you
Whenever
acquire that?
hmm, just digging in some record store.
Mm.
Some record store. This thing with this was like no more than $5
Oh, wow.
because everything is worn. The 45s are worn. This is worn. So they just were like, it wasn't expensive at all.
Mm.
Just digging,
Wow.
you know? And
That's pretty
so,
awesome.
and then just later talking to other DJs and saying, yo, I found this. They were in older cats. They're like, yeah, this is how they used to do it. This
Mm,
is
mm,
exactly what they used to do. I said, wow. So
mm.
this is yeah, these two, this is my number one. Yeah, like you said, it's
Mhm.
impossible to do five. It's
That's
impossible.
pretty awesome, man.
Impossible to do five, but that's just kind of a taste of the uh, different types of joints for different reasons. Beyond
Hmm,
some of them
hmm.
beyond the music, you know.
Right, right. That's so cool. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing your top five vinyl records with me today.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for
Of
your time.
course, of course. Thanks for being part of it. We'll talk soon, man.
Yes, sir.
All
All
right,
right.
have a good one.
You too.